In 1961, President Kennedy called on all Americans to rise to the challenges of the day. He knew that success depended upon the unity of efforts throughout the federal government and the nation. In a memorandum he wrote, "I want coordination of government activities outside of Washington significantly strengthened across departments and agency lines." From this, federal executive boards were born. The Greater Boston Federal Executive Board, one of 28 across the country, fosters communication, coordination, and collaboration with federal, state, and local government agencies. It is our hope that through this series, folks will learn about the mission and work done by different agencies, what that means for our country, and more specifically, what that means to each of us as individuals. This is your federal government, and I am your host, Diane LeBlanc. Hello everyone. Today we are featuring the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known to most folks as ICE. ICE is the principal investigative arm of the federal government's Department of Homeland Security.
A little here about ICE. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, a part of DHS, has been around since 2003 and inherited the investigative and enforcement responsibilities of INS. ICE is the second largest investigative agency in the federal government. To ensure that civil rights and civil liberties of persons are not diminished by efforts, activities, and programs aimed at securing the homeland. To help fulfill this mission, Congress mandated the creation of the DHS Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. This office supports the department's mission to secure the nation while preserving individual liberty, fairness, and equality under the law. It investigates and resolves civil rights and civil liberties complaints filed by the public regarding DHS policies, programs, or activities.
We are fortunate to have a representative of each of these major program areas with us today. Dorothy Herrera-Niles, who is the Field Office Director for ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations, and Bruce Folkart, who is a Special Agent in charge of ICE's Homeland Security Investigations. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you for being here. Dorothy, I want to start with you. Tell folks a little bit about your background, how you came to work for ICE, and in general, what your responsibilities are.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I began my career with the Legacy Immigration and Naturalization Service back in 1988 in San Diego, California. I've also worked in San Juan, Puerto Rico, San Antonio, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, and currently in Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow. You've been around.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. So you come with your educational background. What was that to make you focus in on this sort of a career?
Yes, I was a criminal justice major at San Diego State in San Diego, California.
Excellent. Bruce, how about you?
Well, I have about 27 years of federal law enforcement background. I started actually with the Department of Justice, United States Marshal Service, and from there went to the United States Customs Service. And as you know, we merged in 2003 into ICE with the INS. My area of responsibility is all in New England, 6 judicial states, 6 New England states. I have about 250 employees, of which they make up 11 offices, the largest office being in Boston.
Excellent, thank you. All right. So, Dorothy, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
Immigration enforcement is a very complicated issue, sometimes a very contentious issue across our country, here in New England and here in Massachusetts. And you also have that New England geographic area of responsibility that Bruce has for his operation. What do you and your staff, what do you do on a daily basis with regard to enforcement and removal?
Yes, that is correct. We do cover all 6 states of New England, and ICE ERO has approximately 200 employees throughout the 6 states. On a daily basis, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations enforces the nation's immigration laws in a fair and effective manner. Our mission is to identify, arrest, and remove aliens who present a danger to national security and public safety. The highest priority for removal is individuals who pose a risk to national security or public safety. ICE is focused on sensible and effective immigration enforcement that prioritizes criminal aliens who pose the greatest risk. ICE does not conduct raids or sweeps indiscriminately.
Okay. So do you actually go and look for illegal aliens who might currently be incarcerated in jails or prisons throughout Massachusetts?
It's a very good question. Yes, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations works closely with our local, state, and federal partners and attempt to locate individuals who may be removable from the United States that are currently incarcerated in prisons and jails.
Okay. So tell folks what happens when an illegal alien gets arrested. What does that process look like? Are they immediately deported? Do they have rights? Do they go through some sort of a legal process?
Absolutely. The majority of illegal aliens go through a legal process. They plead their cases before the immigration judges with the Executive Office for Immigration Review. This is a component of the Department of Justice, actually, and ICE carries out the orders of the immigration judges.
And so I'm sure it differs depending upon the specifics of any case, but in general, how long does that process take?
It really is case specific. Every case is a little different. Different individuals have different equities. Someone can actually be legally in the United States and be subject to removal proceedings. They may be here with a legal permanent resident card, but because of their criminal conviction, they could be removable from the United States. Whereas an individual who is not in the United States lawfully may be subject to removal proceedings in a more expedient manner.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have your federal partners, but that you also work very closely with local and state law enforcement agencies. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about secure communities, which gets at those relationships with local, state, and federal law enforcement. What is secure communities?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that we have an excellent working relationship with our local and state and federal partners. We have a long history of working with our local law enforcement in the community. And basically what secure communities is information sharing between two federal agencies.
First of all, what is Secure Communities? Very simply, it is an initiative to help DHS identify removable aliens arrested for crimes. Under Secure Communities, your agency's fingerprint data that the state already sends to the FBI as part of the customary booking process is now shared with DHS. It is designed to prioritize the identification and removal of aliens with criminal convictions from the country, with resources devoted first to those who pose the greatest threat. There are 3 things you should know about the Secure Communities initiative. 1. It does not authorize local law enforcement officers to enforce immigration law. 2. It does not change your local law enforcement priorities or procedures. 3. By keeping the public properly informed about the initiative, you can maintain the effectiveness of your community policing.
We are a nation with a proud history of immigration. If you come here lawfully, work hard, and play by the rules, the United States welcomes you with open arms. But we are also a nation of laws. We will not tolerate those who come here unlawfully and commit crimes at the expense of their neighbors and their communities. With Secure Communities, we can now identify deportable aliens who are committing crimes and remove them from the country before they are released. This protects our communities and promotes the rule of law, while making clear that our focus is on criminal offenders, not the law-abiding.
ICE prioritizes first, aliens convicted of aggravated felonies. Second, aliens convicted of other felonies. And third, aliens convicted of misdemeanors. At all times, ICE retains authority to make appropriate enforcement decisions against removable aliens, consistent with its priorities and resources, based on individual facts and circumstances, regardless of whether a criminal conviction is obtained. Secure Communities has modernized information sharing among federal, state, tribal, and local agencies, and it has benefits on all levels. On the federal level, it has enabled ICE to identify criminal aliens more quickly and accurately, using fingerprints rather than biographic information like name or date of birth. And on the local level, there is no change to the customary booking process and little or no cost to participate. What's more, with Secure Communities, your agency may receive information in addition to the criminal history. This information, such as aliases, may be helpful in providing more complete background of the subject in custody. The most important benefit, though, is to enhance public safety. The Secure Communities initiative enables ICE to remove criminal aliens from your communities after they have completed any jail or prison sentence.
I can tell you this, how has Secure Communities added immigration enforcement to my duties? It has not. It has not changed the policies and procedures of the Houston Police Department, and I am under no mandate to do federal immigration enforcement as a result of Secure Communities. So it has not changed that posture at all.
Actually, the good part about the Secure Communities program is that everyone who's incarcerated in our jail already anyway is already fingerprinted through the normal process. There's no additional paperwork that needs to be completed, no additional steps. Once they're run through the system, they're automatically checked with the ICE and the Homeland Security database as well.
But it really preserves our link with people. Again, we don't want them to be afraid that we're out seeking people who are in the country illegally. We want them to feel free to come to us and report crimes and criminal activity. So we take that role very seriously, and we're glad that this program helps us preserve that.
So Bruce, when most people think about ICE, they think about Dorothy's operation.
Why? I do not know why. Actually, our name is just what it is, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So our job is to ensure public safety and national security in those areas of immigration enforcement as well as customs enforcement.
And you are responsible for Homeland Security investigations.
Correct.
Throughout New England,
Correct.
as you said. So tell folks a little bit more specifically what that entails.
Well, it's all about criminal investigations. Now, where Dottie's responsibility just deals with administrative responsibilities related to immigration enforcement, probably a majority of what we do involves United States citizens, for example, who are violating the laws in the areas of immigration enforcement as well as in the areas of customs enforcement. So while we do have administrative authority, which we call Title VIII authority, and we can arrest someone, for example, who's out of status or who has a status which renders them deportable if they have previous convictions in their background. For the most part, what we do is criminal investigations. What we are responsible for is investigating criminal investigations, bringing them to the United States Attorney's offices or the local DA's office, if it's going to be a state charge, and then hopefully you get a successful prosecution.
So here in New England, and even more specifically here in Massachusetts, are there any specific areas of investigation that your folks focus on?
Well, we prioritize all 14 of the responsibilities, and I'll go through them. I'll try not to forget them all. In the areas of immigration enforcement, gang suppression is a huge issue for us. Oftentimes, some transnational gang members are out of status, so we encourage our local and state entities to bring those names forward to us so that we may vet them through our systems. And it may be as simple as going out and doing a gang surge with the state and locals and arresting them and putting them into deportation proceedings. Great way to ensure public safety. Immigration enforcement by way of immigration benefit fraud, for example, marriage fraud. People who are, who will marry to keep the spouse in the United States illegally. Immigration document fraud. I can go down the street here in Boston, probably here in Waltham, which is 5-10 miles away, and purchase fraudulent immigration documents. For example, a green card. I can get a fake green card probably for $500. I can get a fake driver's license for $1,000. And who knows what you can do with those documents once you have them. You know, I think the story is 19 of the terrorists, the hijackers back in 9/11, had 6 or 7 fraudulent documents each, both fraudulent and real documents that they had submitted fraudulent documents to. For example, the Virginia DMV, the RMV in the state of Virginia. Along those lines, human trafficking. Anyone who's put in peonage, prostitution, for example, putting someone in a position against their will is human trafficking. Human trafficking doesn't always involve the borders. It can involve United States citizens as well. Human smuggling is when someone pays, generally a criminal organization, to have them smuggled over the border. For example, the southwest border, or in the Asian communities, oftentimes you'll see them smuggled through the maritime, through ships, for example. That's human smuggling. The difference between human smuggling and human trafficking is against someone's will. Human smuggling is for that person's will, meaning he or she is paid to have themselves smuggled into the United States. Now, in the areas of customs enforcement, in the areas of immigration enforcement, generally we're dealing with people. In the areas of customs enforcement, we're dealing with contraband. For example, narcotics that are trafficked or smuggled in from Canada, for example, brought into the United States, brought into the New England area. Same thing with the southwest border. Money laundering as it relates to contraband smuggling, money laundering as it relates to immigration identification fraud, for example. Money laundering can exist in almost all federal crimes. Child pornography, sexual exploitation investigations. That's part of our customs enforcement side. It is illegal to possess one depiction of a child in a sexual position. It's called child pornography. And with that one image, you can be charged federally. Now, obviously, we work at our state and local partners. If it rises to the level of a federal prosecution, we'll certainly take it to the U.S. Attorney's Office. If it doesn't, we'll pass it on to our state and local partners, which we have an excellent relationship with. The illegal exportation of high-tech weaponry. Most of the weapons that leave the United States do so with a State Department license. Someone, for example, a manufacturer, Raytheon right down the street, would have to request from the Department of State a license to export that. Well, obviously, people who are going to, or manufacturers who do that without a State Department license, are criminally liable. And oftentimes, this weaponry ends up in wrong countries' hands, in criminal organizations, for example. You never want to have that happen. So export enforcement is a big thing that we do as well.
So I spent a lot of time preparing for this interview. I looked at your website and tried to look at all of the different areas that you are involved in, and I was just really amazed. And you've touched on some areas that I wouldn't have necessarily thought that ICE would have been involved in, such as, you know, taking child pornography kind of head on. Sure. And I think you said at the beginning of the show that you have 250 employees?
250 employees, of which about 200 special agents, criminal investigators, yes.
So on a daily basis, I'm guessing they don't spend much time in the office. How do they do their work? Are they out in the field? What's happening?
Very much so. We always say, and it's an age-old axiom, you can't make cases behind a desk. So they're out doing surveillances, they're out liaisoning with state and locals, meeting informants, for example, just like a detective would, and that's exactly what we're out there doing.
And like Dorothy, you also mentioned the partnerships with the other federal entities,
yes,
and with your state and local partners. But could you talk a little bit more specifically about the relationship between your office, ICE, and Citizenship and Immigration Services and Customs and Border Protection?
Well, we are the largest directorate of criminal investigators for the Department of Homeland Security. So what we like to tell everyone is we are the criminal investigators for DHS. So if Border Patrol, for example, if CBP, for example, interdicts narcotics or contraband, they generally give us a call. And then we will follow that up with the criminal investigation and take that to trial. Same thing with Citizenship and Immigration Service. They have people, auditors, people that are looking at these documents on a regular basis. Something seems afoul, something seems not right, they'll refer it to my Document and Benefit Fraud Task Force, which they will take the case from there.
So one of the things that I was reading about over the weekend was Operation Predator,
Sure.
Which is a nationwide effort of ICE. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about
Yeah,
that?
unfortunately, there are a lot of sexual predators out there that think they can remain anonymous behind computers, and they think that we're not out there going to look for them. That anonymity seems to be systemic in and around the country. I like to use the talking points. I have 200 agents. I could give each of those agents 10 of these child exploitation cases, and I would still be pushing cases to the state. That's how bad it is. So Operation Predator is a nationwide HSI responsibility in which we're out there looking for these predators who not only are trading in child pornography, but making it as well, production, and who are out there, say, paying to have sex, unfortunately, with children overseas or in the United States. And so they're on our radar, and that's a huge priority for us within HSI and in New England.
What can the public do to help?
Well, they can call our tip line. Our tip line is 1-866-DHS to ICE. And how that tip line works is we have operators that are on call or online 24/7 who receive this information and forward that information to the various offices in and around the country. So they can do that. We also have our website, which is www.ice.gov/HSI. And there's also ways to go in there as well and to provide information to us and just learn a lot about what HSI is all about.
Great. Now, you had touched a little bit on human smuggling and human trafficking, and you told us what the difference in those two were.
A little bit.
I mean, human trafficking, that is, it's almost akin to modern day slavery.
It is.
And can you talk more specifically about how your agents are actually trying to address those crimes?
Sure. One of the most difficult things in the area of human trafficking is getting the victim to come forward and provide the information. Oftentimes they're coached by the pimps, for example, in sexual exploitation and in prostitution cases, not to come forward. They're also extorted. They're also told that if they come forward, that they will tell ICE, that they're in the country illegally, for example. So that's the number one thing that kind of challenges us is how do we get these people to come forward? Well, there's a way to do it. And if someone is out of status, we can keep them in the United States under a deferred action or prosecutorial discretion. What it's called is continued presence while they're cooperating with us, with our investigators. Ultimately, the goal is to go after the people who are extorting them or who are trafficking them. And then they can apply for a petition for what's called a T visa or a trafficking visa. And after 3 years, with their cooperation with us, obviously we still want to make a case, criminal investigation, they can actually adjust to a green card and they can remain in the United States legally. So there are definite immigration benefits. A U visa, for example, someone who has been violated, generally U visas involve violent crimes. We can petition for someone to remain in the country under a U visa while they cooperate to bring the perpetrators forward. And oftentimes the perpetrators are someone that they know.
And that's good information, definitely, to get out there. So folks who do cooperate
Sure.
with ICE, there are benefits for that. On the website, there was a statement that really struck me, and I'm going to read it, and I want for you to elaborate a little bit on it. It said, "Trafficking victims are often hidden in plain sight,
Yes.
voiceless and scared."
Well, it goes back to getting these people from the shadows, and it's very, very difficult to do. We work with non-governmental organizations such as Lutheran charities, Catholic charities, that will help the victim as well. Someone that comes forward has an opportunity to get a roof over their head, to get clothes, to get food, to get some subsistence while they are cooperating. So we do work very, very well with the NGOs, what we call NGOs, to bring these cases forward. But yeah, they are voiceless. I believe Massachusetts just recently passed a state human trafficking law. I know they did, probably within the last 6 months. And I think there's probably only a handful now around the country that don't have state trafficking charges. So it's popular. It's hopefully getting the message out both at the state level as well as the federal level. We're not going to tolerate it.
And again, you need the help of the public.
We do. And our tip line, and for people to come forward. And oftentimes it isn't as easy as having the victim come forward because they may not even have the time. We've actually found a victim in the basement of someone's house that was just taking care of the people's kids who own the house. And this woman was not let outside the house for what we think 6-7 months.
Wow.
But when we had that opportunity to co-victim or to rescue her and to have her work with us, you know, it's really significant and it's fulfilling as far as casework goes. But yes, we need people to come forward and provide that information to us or to the state and locals who know that we do this on a regular basis.
And you all work together?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah. So intellectual property theft, something else I stumbled upon on your
Intellectual
website.
property rights, yeah.
What is that?
Well, oftentimes, you know, the public's going to think, it's the fake Gucci watches and it's the fake DVDs. And really, you know, what harm is there in spending $5 for a Gucci watch? Well, here's the harm. Many U.S. workers are going to lose jobs because people are not buying the real product. In the area of entertainment industry, for example, DVDs that are pirated, think about it. You got actors guilds, you got all the people working on these that potentially are going to lose business to. Never mind the big movie companies. So it's not just about, you know, people making a buck. It's about, and here's the thing: criminal organizations are behind this. Generally, we're finding them in the Far East. We're finding them in China. We're finding it in Taiwan, Korea. They're criminal organizations in these countries that are behind this. And what are they doing with the money? Well, they're probably trafficking in drugs. They're probably human I mean, it's just perpetual. It's perpetual.
Right.
And so what we say is, what our mantra is again, use the tip line. Let us go out there, find whoever's trafficking in these, and go out and prosecute them. Because bottom line, it's a loss of jobs. It's very, very hurtful. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's hurtful to the economy.
So now in Boston, you have a computer forensic lab
We
that
do.
you oversee.
Yep.
Tell folks about that. How many employees work there? What do you do?
Extremely proud of the fact that we opened up, I think, one of 11 computer forensics labs last September 2011. I have about 10 agents that are computer forensics trained, meaning they can take apart a PDA, they can take apart a computer, image it, get the evidence off it within a matter of minutes now. We help out other agencies. Unfortunately, I get back to the child exploitation and the child pornography. Unfortunately, our computer forensics agents probably deal with about 85% of their time deal with child exploitation type crimes. But they are available to look at computers, image computers as part of search warrants, for example, on a regular basis. And so it is in the JFK building. It's state of the art. We think it's, you know, cutting as far as that goes. And I'm very, very proud of the work that they're doing on a regular basis.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, most of your employees, do they have the criminal justice, law enforcement background? Do they come from other fields, the sciences? What are the backgrounds?
I'd say for the most part, everyone, or not everyone, but most people have CJ, criminal justice backgrounds. We have a few lawyers. We have a few people that work, computer forensics experts that got back into the field, into law enforcement meaning. It runs the gamut. You know, it's, political science. My degree's in political science. It's not in CJ. So, you know, someone who's very, very interested in doing this work, I say, you know, apply. It's the greatest job going. I like to say we're number 2 in numbers to the FBI, but we're number 1 in your hearts.
There you go.
And that's for you, the FBI. It is. I think it's just the best work going, and it's like I said, doing these cases, you feel so good about it afterwards.
And anybody who might be interested in pursuing a career with the Department of Homeland Security and ICE in particular, like with all federal agencies, it's the main portal, usajobs.gov. So that's where we would send them. Bruce, I want to talk about workplace audits. What does your office do in that regard?
Well, we have a 4-pronged approach. First and foremost, the priority is criminal cases. Someone who has knowledge and intent that they have an illegal workforce. It's all about integrity, because it's not just about hiring someone who's here and wants to work hard. It's about the criminal organizations all along the way that these people had to get through to be in a position to be hired. Those smugglers that I mentioned, that organizations, they have to pay them. They're living a lie. The mere fact that they are possessing fraudulent documents, oftentimes they have to, and they're passing them, and they're actually committing perjury to pass these documents and say who they're not, when who they are is something entirely different. But getting back to the four-prong approach, criminal investigations is the priority. Second would be our administrative audits. Businesses out there should absolutely be aware that we have ramped up, and through Congress has given us congressional positions over the last several years, and we're conducting I-9 audits. Since the formation of DHS, every employee is required to fill out an I-9 form. And those I-9 forms need to be backed with specific documentation. If that paperwork is not in order, or if the paperwork's shoddy, if there's egregious errors, they can be fined. And our fines have gone up over the last several years. I believe when we first started, maybe 70,000. I think last year we were almost at the 350,000 mark for one fiscal year. And I like to say I'd like to use this as a deterrent as well, because once we have a company that's been fined, I like to put it out. I like to put it out in the media. To me, it's shameful that they've hired an illegal workforce. And I hope other companies within that particular area or in that field recognize that we're out there and we could easily be auditing them. The third part is disbarment. Anyone who is working with the federal government that has an illegal workforce can be contractually disbarred. That's the third approach. And the fourth approach is IMAGE. And IMAGE stands for IMAGE. ICE's mutual agreement between government and employees, or employers, excuse me. And what it is, it's a self-policing program in which a company will come forward, partner with us, agree to best business practices, best hiring practices, and on a regular basis go through audits so they ensure that they don't have an illegal workforce. Because getting back, it's all about integrity. And so I'm hoping that we raise those numbers of IMAGE employees that we can partner with in and around New England or in and around the country. And we have some very, very prominent companies like Tyson's Food, Costco, for example. Those are some big name companies who are IMAGE certified.
And so that's obviously great information for any employees who might be watching. And as well, your website provides everything employers absolutely need to know so that they can make sure that they're doing things the right way. So, Dorothy, what have I not asked you that you would like to have our audience hear?
I would just like to reiterate that ICE enforcement and removal operations upholds America's immigration laws at, within, and beyond our borders. Through efficient enforcement and removal operations, in FY11 we removed 396,000 people from the United States, of which more than 50% were criminally convicted persons. Also, with more than 11 million illegal aliens in the United States, we only have resources to remove 400,000 from the United States each year. So we are very focused on targeted enforcement operations, and we target criminal aliens and those that pose a threat to national security as well as public safety.
Those are some pretty astounding numbers. Yes, impressive.
Very busy.
So Bruce, what about your operation? Anything that we've not covered?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on board. We are almost 10 years young. We will be 10 years young in 2013. And we need to continue to brand ourselves. We need to continue to brand Homeland Security investigations. We need to continue to brand ICE in general. So 25 years from now, 50 years from now, we're just as common a name as FBI, Secret Service, Border Patrol. Everyone's going to know ICE. Everyone's going to know HSI.
Excellent. Well, I think hopefully this show will help in
that
getting that word out. We are at our close. I certainly want to thank our guests for joining us today and helping us to better understand the work of ICE and its role in protecting the public through the enforcement of federal laws governing border control, customs, trade, and immigration. I thank you for watching, and I hope that you will continue to join us as we feature other federal agencies on your federal government.